Hey there, true believers. This is Chef Jack here to bring you another round of Marvel vs. DC Comics reviews. I know I've been falling behind on these. I apologize. Health issues have made it very difficult for me to record these things. I'll be honest. I'll get started on them and then I'll just run completely out of energy. I am trying to get more of them done. This particular video is one that I've been working on for about 2 weeks now, so to be honest, you've probably already read these issues. I'm going to review them anyway. My next review video will be the most recent issues, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to take a look at some of the older issues that I never got a chance to review. I know you've already reviewed them yourself. You've probably already read them yourself. You've probably already made up your mind yourself, but I still want to, let you know what I think. So please bear with me as I try to get caught up. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the following: Black Panther number 18, Cyborg number 17, Deathstroke number 24, Green Lanterns number 32, Hawkeye number 11, The Immortal Iron Fists number 5, Justice League number 30, The Kamandi Challenge number 9, The Mighty Thor, number 23. Nick Fury, number 6. Nightwing, The New Order, number 2. Spider-Gwen, number 24. Star Wars Jedi of the Republic, Mace Windu, number 2. Suicide Squad, number 26. Wildstorm, Michael Cray, number 1. And lastly, X-Men Blue, number 11. The one-star books are the worst of the lot for this week. These are trash. These are the ones you really shouldn't waste your time reading. Cyborg number 17. Have you ever read a story where all the tension and all the drama and all the risk to the characters are completely forced and artificial because in the end absolutely not a goddamn thing matters a squirt of warm urine? This is one of those kind of stories. I mean, Cyborg is still in the digital universe. He's figured out that he has the God code. So in this universe, he's God. He can do whatever he wants. He can do anything. He can will anything to happen. He can change anybody. So why is his digital clone still a problem? Why is the OTAC virus still a problem? None of this issue makes a damn lick of sense at all. Cyborg continues to be a disappointing title. I love the character, but this title is just disappointing me. And unfortunately, it's one of the more regularly disappointing titles coming out of DC these days. The Immortal Iron Fists number 5. This issue is so ridiculous that I am getting a headache just trying to put it into words. I mean, first off, it turns out, surprise, every supporting player that was being, portrayed as a good guy has turned out to be a bad guy. Aisi is not just a bad guy, she's another daughter of the demon. She's the sister of Madame Meow. It's just one coincidence after another, followed by one Deus Ex Machina after another. I have no idea what drugs the writers were on when they came up with this crap, but obviously they weren't the kind of drugs that promote decent storylining. I mean, seriously. And the art, to be honest, sucks like always. Especially the absolutely nonsensical, out-of-left-field depiction of what the Iron Fist power in action is supposed to look like. I mean, seriously, give this a serious pass. Don't even bother with it. Spider-Gwen number 24. I suppose it was inevitable that the writers would put Spider-Gwen in the Venom symbiote sooner or later, especially what with the Venomverse event and all. Unfortunately, rather than add any excitement or story potential, something that this title is sorely in need of normally, all it really did was make an already boring title that much more boring. I mean, the entire thing feels forced. The bonding scene is played as if it were a rape, except, Gwen doesn't do anything to try and stop it. The scenes with her father are bordering on soap opera melodrama, and she remains just as flat and cardboard bland a character as always. I mean, even when she's joined with the symbiote, she's boring. Again and again, the writers are making sure that there is nothing appealing about this title or this character, so there's really no reason to read it. The comic books that are awarded 2 stars are bad. They may have one or two redeeming features that save them from going on the 1-star list, but they're still probably not worth your time reading. Black Panther number 18. This issue really lags, and by that I mean that the pacing of the story is slower than necessary. Supposedly, this particular issue is to set the stage for the big renumbering and for Marvel Legacy. It does feature some solid characterization between T'Challa and Shuri, but for the most part, it's bland characterization and it's straightforward characterization. The story has no surprises at all. It wastes a lot of time and a lot of energy without actually doing much, without actually telling us much of a story. Also, the art is very loose. Everything feels rushed, especially in the final couple of pages. It's almost like the storytellers were like, oh God, we're about to end the issue. We should start wrapping things up, and just dumped it all. That is not the right way to make a comic book. The Mighty Thor number 23. This issue has me really conflicted. I mean, you know those stories that have a really fun premise and could be really, really good, but then they're written so haphazardly and so horribly that they're hard to actually read without, wincing? But not because the idea that it's built on is bad idea. It's just, executed wrong. So you keep reading, and it gets worse as you go along. Well, that was this issue for me. The idea of Volstagg picking up a version of Mjolnir and going berserk with it, that's a cool idea. The idea of a cancer-ridden Jane Foster appealing to his better nature and talking him down, that's a cool idea. The intervening pages featuring, the fight between SJW, not really Thor, and Volstagg, yeah, that's just cringe-inducing. Especially the line, you want to know about war? Try fighting cancer. Really? Really? Star Wars, Jedi of the Republic, Mace Windu, number 2. I think it's safe to say that Marvel has been inconsistent in the quality of its Star Wars comics. This title is one of those books that seems to be falling flat more often than it's scoring. There were a few interesting moments in this issue. It did seem to pick up on the reluctant soldier aspect of Mace Windu's character, not to mention the more religious aspects of being a Jedi itself, but it wasn't, there wasn't enough time spent dedicated to these moments to really flesh them out the way they deserved. Instead, we got thrown into one boring action sequence after another boring action sequence. Don't get me wrong, the artwork in this book is amazing. It's the plot and the dialogue that lets us down here. Also, they need to do something about that title. For crying out loud, it's, 7-9 words long? Come on, people. The books that get 3 stars aren't all that good, but on the other hand, they're not all that bad either. Sure, go ahead and read them. However, get the 4- and 5-star books first. Hawkeye number 11. I don't know exactly how this happened, but this issue did absolutely nothing for me while simultaneously not being completely horrible. To be honest, it was just sort of there. It was a little flat, wasn't completely boring, but it wasn't all that exciting either. The story worked, at least on a technical level. The writing wasn't bad per se. The storyline just sort of petered out at the end. Madame Mask got away. The entire clone body thing was never explored. 2 huge story threads that were just left hanging there. Nothing happened with those. There is a nice moment when Kate Bishop and Madame Mask almost have a conversation, but then that conversation never happens. And lastly, the art is still completely underwhelming. If they had a decent artist and maybe a better writer, I might actually get into this title. Suicide Squad number 26. This issue, which was the 3rd in the Gotham Resistance crossover storyline, continued the theme of face a villain, move along. While Rob Williams does his best to give his own spin on this formula, the fact is it's still just a formula. As with all other issues in this particular crossover event, there were some okay elements here and there. I mean, the rather evil and, in my opinion, much more believable interpretation of Poison Ivy is fun. It's much more entertaining to me than some of her other portrayals. The art was dynamic. The overall storyline fit the art. That was pretty cool. But it felt like there was just something basic missing. It's hard to exactly pin down what, other than it seemed paint by numbers. On top of it all, it was a very fast-paced issue, perhaps even too fast-paced. Maybe that was the problem. I don't know. Did it work? Yeah, sorta. Was it great? No. X-Men Blue number 11. This issue felt rushed and incomplete somehow. The fight scenes, especially toward the beginning of the issue, seemed way too convenient and contrived. I have a big problem with how the introduction of the Raksha has been handled. I mean, we don't know them at all, and here they are again, coming to the rescue. I'd like to have at least a small look into the relationship. I mean, especially after Jean Grey effectively asks the Raksha to train them as ninjas. It's called Follow Up, Mr. Bunn. Learn it. In addition, the lack of consistency in the artwork is a negative point for me with this series, and it continues. While we're listing complaints, can we keep one penciler for each story arc? I find it jarring to read a multi-issue story where the art is different each and every time. Overall, I just felt that this was a half-assed issue. It was an incomplete story that was stretched out to fill the space rather than a full-length book. The books that get 4 stars are the good ones. These are the ones that we recommend. They may have 1 or 2 small problems here or there, but nothing that takes away the enjoyment or the quality of the comic book. Deathstroke number 24. I'm going to be honest, I almost gave this issue 3 stars instead of 4, but in the end, and after a lot of careful thought, I had to give it that one last star. Christopher Priest takes the story in a completely different and rather interesting direction. Instead of advancing the same complex layered plot that he's been going through since issue 1, Priest steps back and gives the readers a chance to catch up and take a breath and learn more about the characters that make up the Defiance team. The issue is essentially a clip show seen through the eyes of Kid Flash. And fortunately, this is not a filler issue. There's still enough going on. There's still enough references to the ongoing plots that keep them fresh in the mind. But they are intentionally throttled back so you rely on the dialogue and the characterization rather than on the big story to carry the issue. And as a clip show, it succeeds spectacularly. This would be a great issue for a new reader to come in without feeling like they missed things. There were a couple of weak points. There were a couple of spots where it felt a little rushed, but that doesn't take away from the overall quality of the issue. Green Lanterns number 32. I'm going to say this up front. This issue is filler, but it's the good kind of filler. It's the kind that gives you breathing room and actually accomplishes something and moves the characters along rather than taking up space. It wasn't like the Deathstroke issue where they kept referring back to the ongoing plot, because there really isn't any ongoing plot at this point. It was purely filler, but it was like I said, it was the good filler. This is a fine, no-stakes story. It allows Simon Boz and his brother-in-law Nazir to finally work out their problems. It allows Jessica Cruz to continue to try and overcome her social anxiety. As a means of cleaning up some of the personal conflicts surrounding these characters and giving them a little character development, this was a realistic and actually a little heartwarming story. I enjoyed the hell out of this story. Everybody is allowed to advance a little instead of just being the usual character. I enjoy these stories which feature little moments that show that our heroes are actually human beings. And for what it's worth, the pleasant story and the perfect art, it does keep us going until the next story arc begins. Out of all the books that I'm reviewing this time around, the 5-star books are the best. They may not be perfect, but they are pretty damn close. Justice League number 30. I've got to hand it to Brian Hitch. If he's good at anything, it's telling big, big, big stories with the League at the center stage. And with this issue, he doesn't let us down. Unlike a lot of the previous epic storylines we've had since the JLA first debuted back in the early 60s, this story actually has a deep emotional connection to the characters and to our connection to them, in fact. It's a group of young heroes claiming to be the children of the League have appeared to stop a menace, and that menace has followed them back in time to stop them from stopping her. It's a huge story. It feels like something the League would have to handle. It's compelling. Throw in some absolutely terrific art and some amazing color work, and you've got an almost perfect, utterly complete issue. The Kamandi Challenge number 9. Over the last 9 issues, this series has been incredibly inconsistent. Some of the stories have been fantastic and exciting and entertaining. Others were huge steaming piles of crap. This issue is pure, absolute gold. Tom King writes a very toned-down story. Kamandi gets introspective about the adventures he's undergone during the challenge itself and what it all means in the big picture, if they mean anything at all. And folks, the artwork in this issue is by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles creator Kevin Eastman and by Freddie Williams. It's even better than the already excellent story. I seriously cannot see where Eastman's art begins and Williams ends, and that's just perfect. I just hope that Greg Pak and Joe Prado can follow this perfect issue up with something just as amazing. Nick Fury number 6. This was not a complicated issue. The story was fairly straightforward. It was summed up perfectly on the first page, in fact. Go here, solve a murder, deal with a murderer. And that's exactly what Fury does. It's not the plot that's important here, but the details. The amazing banter, the page construction, the frame-by-frame blocking of the shots, the color work, the awesome, vibrant artwork. And for such a simple storyline, this issue manages to capture your imagination. It just does not let go until it runs to the finish line. It is exciting. And like I said, despite the fact that you realize afterward that it's just a simple whodunit, at the end you're like, wow, that was an amazing story. Nightwing, The New Order, number 2. So, what do I think about Nightwing, The New Order? Well, so far every issue in this miniseries has earned a 5-star rating. What's that tell you? This story might well be the best thing DC's ever done with Nightwing as a character. And as an alternate universe story, it's perfect. I would put it in my top 10 Elseworlds list pretty much near the top where I'm making that list today. Even considering that this isn't technically an Elseworlds title. This issue avoided the usual second issue slump, and in fact I could argue that it's better than the first one. It gives me a lot of hope for the rest of the series. Seriously guys, I really fucking like this issue. If you haven't read it, if you haven't read the first one for that matter, stop listening to this video. Turn off this video. Go find the first issue. Go find the second issue. Read the first issue. Read the second issue. Read them, enjoy them, and then come back and finish listening to me ramble on about it, okay? Trust me, you'll thank me. Wildstorm, Michael Cray number 1. This issue is a prequel to the Wildstorm series. It serves as a brilliant first introduction to Michael Cray for people who have no previous knowledge of just who and what he is, and how he fits in with the other Wildstorm characters. You immediately get to know just who Michael is at his core, while gaining an interesting insight into his skills and his abilities, and his background. If the first arc is being set up in the way I think it is, it's going to answer some questions that have hovered around the characters since the 1990s. If it turns out to be a setup for some twist further down the line, it still provides a completely different perspective on a character we've seen in a lot of comics and action movies. Overall, I am totally into this series, and I cannot wait to see what the future brings. It's going to be a fun ride, and I look forward to it. And now for the roundup and the final scores. In this video, DC Comics had 1 1-star book, no 2-star books, 1 3-star book, 2 4-star books, and 4 5-star books. I award 1 point for every star, which means that DC's total score is 32 points. After reviewing 8 titles from DC, their average score comes to 4.0 points. Marvel, on the other hand, had 2 1-star books, 3 2-star books, 2 3-star books, no 4-star books, and only 1 5-star book. Again, I award 1 point for every star, which means Marvel's total score is 19 points. Just like DC, I reviewed 8 titles from Marvel, which means Marvel's average score is 2.37 points. Folks, calling this complete victory for DC an ass-whipping is really an insult to ass-whippings. This wasn't an ass-whipping. This was the moral equivalent to a bully coming up to a school kid, yanking his underwear up so it's up over his head, pushing him around, grinding him in the mud, and then shoving him down a flight of stairs. This was not pretty. Absolutely not pretty at all. But what did you think, true believers? Did you agree with me on my reviews? Did you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Again, I am going to try and catch up with the more recent comic books in my next review video, and then I'm going to go back to some of the older ones that I missed. You know, I'm sorry for having so much trouble pumping out content. I can't really help the you know, my health issues. They drag me down, and if you ever had serious health issues that made you tired and just lethargic 100% of the time, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Again, I'm going to work harder to get these videos out. I'm going to get more content out. Please bear with me. I'm sure that in some of the upcoming videos, I will be reviewing comics that you guys have already read and made up your mind about, but I still want to share my opinions with you. Maybe we can spark a discussion, but the old comics are not going to be the priority. I am going to get the newer comics done first. Not only the Marvel and DC comics, but the newer independents also. And yes, I am going to still do the independents. I promise you, I do have more history of comics videos coming up. I do have more If I Wrotes coming up. It's just, you know, it's a little difficult. All I got to tell you is that I am going to give it my best. You know, you stick with me and I'll stick with you. Again, let me know what you thought of the reviews in the comments below. If you like what we're doing here and you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Hit that big red subscribe button. If you do subscribe, don't forget to hit the little notification bell that's right next to the subscribe button. That way you don't miss a single one of our upcoming videos. If you feel like giving us a hand so we can keep this show rolling, we do have a VIDME page and a Patreon page listed below. You know, go ahead and hop on over, drop a buck in the till. We will be eternally thankful. But even if you don't, true believers, I want you to know that I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. Thank you very, very much for watching.